Keir Starmer has rung in the new year with a bold address to the nation, promising transformative change and a brighter future for Britain in 2025. But not everyone is convinced. As the Prime Minister stood at the iconic Downing Street podium, his words painted an optimistic picture of progress, a nation on the verge of reclaiming its greatness. Yet behind the carefully chosen phrases and uplifting rhetoric lies a simmering storm of controversy. And trust me, the reactions to this speech will leave you speechless. But before we dive into the fallout, let's hear directly from the man himself.
2024 was a year of change. Not sadly in the football, another agonisingly close shave for England, but change in politics with the election of this Labour government in July. And more importantly, with the work of change that we've begun. The minimum wage raised by a record amount, wages up more broadly, returns of foreign national criminals up 20%, billions of pounds worth of new projects in clean British energy, making our country more secure, and £25 billion invested in our NHS, starting to cut waiting lists in your local hospital. Now, I know there's still so much more to do, and that for many people it's hard to think about the future when you spend all of your time fighting to get through the week. So I want to be clear, until you can look forward and believe in the promise and the prosperity of Britain again, then this government will fight for you. A fight for change that will define this year, next year, and indeed every waking hour of this government. We have a clear plan for change. 1.5 million new homes, restoring the dream of home ownership. Children starting school ready to learn. A more secure energy system. Waiting lists cut dramatically. Immigration reduced. Neighbourhood police tackling antisocial behaviour in every community. And more cash in your pocket wherever you live. That is what we will be focusing on. A year of rebuilding, but also rediscovering the great nation that we are. A nation that gets things done, no matter how hard or tough the circumstances. We'll have time to reflect on that this year. A chance, with the 80th anniversary of VE and VJ Day, to cherish the greatest victories of this country and the greatest generation that achieved it. The 8th of May and the 15th of August will both be wonderful moments to come together and do that generation proud.
Starmer opened with a light-hearted nod to England's latest football misfortune, a loss to Spain in the Euro 2024 finals, but quickly shifted gears to serious matters at home. He touted Labour's achievements since the party's historic election win in July, including record-breaking wage increases, a surge in renewable energy investments, and over £25 billion allocated to the NHS. His plan for change promised 1.5 million new homes, drastic cuts to NHS waiting lists, and a renewed focus on neighbourhood policing and immigration control. The speech brimmed with confidence and determination. Starmer emphasised the resilience of the British people and their ability to overcome adversity, drawing parallels to the spirit of the wartime generation as Britain prepares to celebrate the 80th anniversaries of VE and VJ Day. Yet, as inspiring as his words may have sounded, they left gaping holes where his government's recent controversies should have been addressed. Critics were quick to pounce. For all the talk of hope and progress, Starmer made no mention of the policies that have sparked public outrage and seen Labour's poll numbers spiral downward. Most notably, the removal of winter fuel payments from 10 million pensioners, a decision that has been widely condemned as cruel and out of touch. For many elderly Britons, the payments were a lifeline during the harsh winter months, and their removal has left vulnerable pensioners struggling to stay warm. The omission from his speech was glaring, and political opponents wasted no time in calling him out. And that's not the only policy leaving voters fuming. Labour's introduction of a 20% inheritance tax levy on farmland has created a storm of backlash among rural communities. Farmers, who already face mounting challenges from economic pressures and supply chain issues, view the tax as an existential threat to family-run farms. Many are accusing Labour of betraying its promises to support hard-working Britons and selling out to big corporate interests. Perhaps the most surprising silence in Starmer's address was his failure to address the ongoing dispute over compensation for the WASPy women, those born in the 1950s who saw their state pension age rise without sufficient notice. This long-standing issue has been a thorn in the side of successive governments, and Starmer's reluctance to tackle it head-on has left many wondering where his priorities truly lie. Meanwhile, the political fallout is already taking shape. Labour's commanding majority in the House of Commons, achieved just 6 months ago, is now at risk of evaporating. Recent polling suggests that Labour would lose nearly half its seats if an election were held today. Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage, is capitalising on voter dissatisfaction, with the party projected to surge from 5 seats to 72. The Conservatives, under Kemi Badenoch's leadership, are staging a quiet but significant revival. Nigel Farage, ever the showman, delivered his own New Year's address from Blenheim Palace, a move laden with symbolism. He positioned himself as a modern-day Churchill, vowing to restore Britain's sense of identity and sovereignty. His speech, which emphasised securing borders and putting the interests of British citizens first, struck a chord with disillusioned voters. The dramatic backdrop of Churchill's birthplace only amplified his message, and pundits are now calling Farage a serious contender in the next general election. Badenoch, meanwhile, used her New Year's address to outline her vision for a renewed Conservative Party. Acknowledging the challenges ahead, she promised to rebuild the party from the ground up and focus on the values that once made the Tories a dominant force in British politics. Though understated compared to Farage's theatrics, her message resonated with traditional Tory voters who feel alienated by the current political landscape. For Starmer, the challenge is clear. He faces a political battlefield unlike any other, a fractured electorate, resurgent opposition, and a restless public demanding immediate results. His government's response to the winter fuel payment backlash, the inheritance tax controversy, and the WASPy women's compensation claims will be critical in the coming months. Failure to address these issues could spell disaster for Labour and tarnish Starmer's legacy as Prime Minister. And let's not forget the internal pressures within Labour itself. Reports suggest growing tensions between Starmer and key members of his cabinet. Chancellor Rachel Reeves is said to be at odds with other ministers over how to navigate the economic challenges facing the country. While Starmer speaks of unity and progress, the cracks within his own team are becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. As 2025 begins, the political landscape is more volatile than ever. Starmer's government is walking a tightrope, balancing ambitious promises with mounting public discontent. Farage and Badenoch are waiting in the wings, ready to pounce on every misstep. The question remains, can Keir Starmer turn things around, or is Labour heading for an implosion of its own making? One thing is certain, this year promises to be one of the most unpredictable in recent political memory. What do you think of Keir Starmer's New Year's address? Will his plan for change deliver the results he's promised, or is the backlash too much for Labour to overcome? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe and stay tuned for more explosive updates from the world of British politics.